All right, let's do the walkthrough for the AI EdBrain at the AFT Teach 2025 conference. First things first, let's talk about some of the basics. When we're talking about generative AI, we are talking about what is functionally just a tool that's been modeled on human language. And so it has no morality, it has no ethics, it has no understanding of true and false. It is just a huge database of probability. So to quote from the Captain America movie, it amplifies everything. So it takes the good and makes it better. It takes the bad and makes it worse. So when we are using it, the obligation for responsible use is on the user because the technology is literally incapable of understanding those things. When it comes to choosing models, AI models to use, you'll hear the term model. Model just means software. In AI language, a model is like Microsoft Word, right? Word was written by humans for humans. AI models are software written by AI for AI to use. And there's two classes that we need to understand. First, we need to use as much as possible within the tools we're given, reasoning models. These are, if it's a fancy tech term for a model that does a rough draft first before it gives you an answer. And because of the way the technology works, the more that it can do a rough draft and talk things out by itself, the better the result it's going to be. The second is multimodal models. These are models that can see and hear. They can watch videos. They can look at photos. They can read documents. Generally speaking, there's a huge number of these models. There's 1.9 million of them in the world. But the three that you'll hear the most of are OpenAI's O series, so O3 and O4, Google's Gemini, which is the 2.5 family, and will be 3.0 soon, and Anthropic's Claude family, Claude 4. All of these are the best of the best, but the good news is no matter what ecosystem you're working in, you can see from this very confusing spaghetti chart that model capability is increasing over time, and they're all kind of moving together. So if your favorite tool or the tool that you have in your classroom isn't the best of the best, don't worry. Over time, every vendor is getting there. In terms of data safety, there's different degrees of AI model safety. The only truly guaranteed privacy you have is if the data never leaves your computer. Those are called local models. And those are fairly technical setup, but they are very low cost. Districts and things will probably start to look into that, hopefully, in the next few years. The ones shown in green here, these are the paid tools. These are Anthropic's Claude, ChatGPT for education, Google Gemini for workspace, and Google Classroom. Basically, if you're paying money for it, it's reasonably safe. Mostly private means no one is going to train on your data, and no one is going to look at what you're putting in unless you trip a safety hazard. If you ask how to do a very bad thing, then it will trigger a safety warning, and a human will take a look to see what you're doing. The tools in yellow are conditionally safe. They train on your data by default, but you can turn it off. And the tools that are in red here, they're all free tools. They do train on your data. You can't turn it off. You can't opt out of it. And some of them, like Grok 4 from xAI, are deeply unsafe and should never be used in any classroom context. The golden rule for privacy is this: if you're not paying, your data is what you're paying with. So in addition to the overall guidelines from AFT about making sure that we don't put students' privacy at risk, just in general, students, families, educators, administrators, staff, anybody, if you are using a free tool, you are paying with your data. So be aware of that. When it comes to using models, unfortunately, they are not always well named. So you do have to take some time to look at what is available. And in general, try to use the smartest model available. There's unhelpful labels that are applied to all the different ones out there. But in OpenAI, in ChatGPT, that's going to be O3. In Copilot, you have what you have. In Gemini, you want to use Gemini Pro as much as possible. And in Anthropic Claude 4 Opus is considered the smartest model. Now, let's talk briefly about how long your prompts can be. Today's AI tools have enough short-term memory, aka the memory in a chat, to easily take in a 90,000-word book as a prompt. Some models, like Google's Gemini, can take in the entire works of William Shakespeare, all 38 plays and sonnets. It's 800,000 words, which means that you don't have to sit there and try and craft the perfect prompt. You can have extended conversations with these tools. If you take away nothing else from this, remember this: the more relevant specific words you use, the better your prompts are going to perform. Now, in terms of how these tools work, one of the things that's important to know is that everything counts. When we think of how AI models work, we think we give it a prompt, it gives us a response. We give it another prompt, it gives us another response. And that's, little segments. What's really happening is every time we prompt the tool, it takes the entire conversation and reruns it. That's one of the reasons why you can't really say, oh, forget what I told you. It doesn't really work all that well. Instead, one of the key things to remember is if you're not getting great results, start a new chat and start over. Which brings us to building a prompt library. One of the things that you should do in the note-taking tool of your choice can be Microsoft OneNote, Evernote, Google Keep, SharePoint, whatever you have access to that can store text documents. You want to build a prompt library. This is where you copy and paste the prompts that you use as you make them better over time. So let's talk about how do we build an effective prompt. AFT and Share My List have put together this handy framework, literally called prompt. Purpose. What do you want the tool to do? Describe it in as much detail. Role. Ask it, hey, choose a role to fit this task. For the outcome, what do you want the thing to look like? Is it a lesson plan? Is it an activity? Is it an interactive? Is it a song? What do you want the outcome to be? For mode and tone, ask the model, hey, choose a tone appropriate to this task. And then under parameters, what are the rules that you follow? What kind of writing style? Are there specific standards, like your federal standards, your state standards, your city standards? What needs to be in there? And then the target audience, who is it for? Is it for you? Is it for your students? Is it for an administrator? You have to decide that. So let's take a look at an example. I need to create a lesson plan to teach how mRNA vaccines work, covering the history, development, and functionality. That's my purpose. I'm going to ask it to choose a role. I said, I need a lesson plan, a single-page handout to accompany a lesson plan, and a slide outline in this format. Build these documents separately in the canvas, which is a feature of most AI tools, one at a time. Choose a tone and the parameters. The lesson plan must be Common Core compliant and meet the Commonwealth of Education, Massachusetts Education Standards for 6th grade science and education, and the City of Framingham education requirements for 6th grade. The lesson plan and handout must be produced in both U.S. and Brazilian Portuguese. Use your web search tools if you're unfamiliar with these requirements, and state your findings for verifications with citations to official resources. This part's really important. You want to make sure anytime you're doing something that requires outside standards that you say, hey, you have to cite where you got the information from so that we as humans can inspect it. Now, I'm going to put an extra thing here saying produce documents with separate languages. Do not commingle languages. We want to make sure that we are clear to the model. And the target audience is 6th grade students at Cameron Middle School in Framingham, Massachusetts. Now let's just copy and paste this entire thing so you can see it. It's okay to have the headings in there. And we're going to paste this in. You can see I'm in ChatGPT. I'm going to choose O3, which is the most advanced reasoning model that will not take forever and a day. And we're going to paste this whole prompt in just like this. So when you're using these, you can literally just take the existing prompt structure here and edit the parts that you want to use. And it doesn't have to be lesson plans. It can be anything. This is just an example. We see here that it's beginning to do its thinking process of figuring out what are the things that it needs to do. And in the background, if I tap on this, we can actually see it's doing its rough draft. This is a reasoning model, like we talked about earlier. So the rough draft it's coming up with is saying, here's what I'm going to do. You can see it's starting to search the web to understand my city's requirements, my state's requirements, the Common Core requirements. It's gathering up the requirements. It's and identifying where on the web it found them. And then it's going to create the translations. It's choosing its own role. It's like supreme curriculum architect. It goes back to web search when it runs into something that it doesn't know how to answer confidently. It says, I found these standards that reference the grade 6 summary. It's got the Common Core standards. Line 508, it tells you what citations it's gathering from. And it's going, searching my city's requirements. And so it says, hey, I couldn't find this in your city's standards for grade 6 science specifically, so I'm going to default to the state level standards, which should be fine. It's going to design the lesson plan next. So you can see it's beginning to move on to building the lesson plan aligned with the curriculum requirements. And here comes the lesson plan in the canvas. So how mRNA vaccines work, you can see that it's opened up essentially a new document here. English version grade and setting, 2 45-minute periods. This is pretty good. We have the standards alignment. We have our learning objectives. We have our materials. We have our key vocabulary section and an instructional sequence with the 5E models. You can even see there's timestamps here for the sections. Differentiation and inclusion, safety and SEL standards. Example, maintaining a respectful dialogue around vaccine hesitancy and reinforcing norms. Remind students that classroom materials are safe simulations, not medical devices. And then, of course, for this student population, we have the same materials now in Brazilian Portuguese. So it's gone through and done the translations for that. So we'll let that finish building, but that walks through the basic how to use this prompt. Now, if you want a magic trick that will dramatically increase the effectiveness of any single prompt that you ever use in any AI system, it is this. Copy and paste this sentence at the end of your prompt. Ask me one question at a time until you have enough information to complete the task. So let's go ahead, and while this is doing its thing, I'm going to start a brand new chat. I'm going to give it the exact same prompt that we just did, but now I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and I'm going to paste in that question. Ask me one question at a time until you have enough information to complete the task. We're still on the O3 model, and now it's going to read through the initial prompt, and it should start asking me questions based on what it is that I've provided, because there might be things that I'm unclear about. First question, how long is each class period? That's a really important point. So it's and how many class sessions do you want this vaccine lesson to run? So each class is 45 minutes. This should be a 3-day lesson, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let's see what additional questions it has to ask. What resources will the students have during this lesson? School issued laptops, tablets, science kits. For this lesson, assume just the basics. Standard arts and crafts materials like construction, paper, scissors, glue, markers, as well as a classroom computer at the lectern. Students are prohibited from using devices during classes. Okay, so we're giving it the requirements to say these are things that you can and can't do. That was missing in the first prompt. So if we think about it, this is a question that we should have thought about, but we forgot. One of the greatest strengths of these tools is understanding how good they are, understanding what's missing. We can't do that as humans. We're really bad at that. But these tools are very good at what are the things that are in the universe of possibility. So now it's going to go ahead and do the exact same process. So this question, ask me one question at a time until you have enough information to complete the task, will make everything you do in AI better immediately. And it works in any system and any tool. The second thing that you can do to add even more value is if you don't want to rely on just what it finds in a quick web search, you might commission a deep research report. This is a function available in ChatGPT. It is available in Anthropic Claude. It's available in Google's Gemini. So let's look at how you would use a deep research tool to do the same thing. I'm going to start a new chat. You'll notice down here on the tools menu, there's a deep research button, and it tells you how many you have available on your account because you're there. Because of how expensive and intensive it is for the computers to do the work, you're limited to a certain number every month. And it depends on the account level that you have and what you or your district is paying for. So I'm going to choose deep research here. And again, this exists in Gemini, in Claude, in ChatGPT. It's universal across the board. I'm going to take the exact same prompt that we started with, right? And I'm going to give that whole thing with some extra details. So the extra details, I want to specify, because we're dealing with something that requires credible knowledge, I'm going to specify in the parameters for all resources, ensure the resource has a valid DOI number. For those who are unfamiliar, in academia, a DOI number is issued to any article or any study that has been peer reviewed. So it's past peer review. So I'm going to say for all vaccine resources. By saying this, we're going to restrict the AI so it's not pulling in like Aunt Esther's Healing Crystal blog. We want to focus just on medically sound resources to ensure it has passed peer review it. So that one sentence is going to change how it's going to do its research. And you can specify other sources. So if you have existing sources, you could load them in as well. Other than that, we're using the exact same prompt because that prompt structure is very sound. And it's going to have a few additional questions, which is terrific. Let's answer the questions. 45 minutes spread over 3 sessions. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 45 minutes each. Interactive components. Interactive. We have construction, paper, scissors, markers, glue, and standard classroom materials. The slide outline is for teacher-led instruction. The handout should be more visual where possible. And we need this available immediately. So I've answered all of its questions, and now it's going to take between 30 and 45 minutes to go and crawl the web and crawl the resources that we've outlined for it to assemble the full report. It's going to pull in the grade resources, it's going to pull in the background data, and most importantly, it will have a long list of citations about where it got its information from. So while it's working, let's now move into the last part, which is building a chatbot of sorts to augment this. And this is something that follows this framework, also from Share My Lesson. What task or role should this take? Who is it for? Is it for the educators or for the student? What attitude or voice should it have? What are the content boundaries? And a helpful output example. So let's do this. We're going to build system instructions for a GPT, which is the chatbot. This is something that is included in Google's Gemini. It's something that is available in Anthropic Claude and is available in ChatGPT and in Copilot. Copilot calls them agents. Claude calls them projects. Google calls them gems. We've filled this thing out here to say that it's going to be a writing coach for an ELL student to use to help improving their writing skills. Students will submit a piece of writing and the GPT will offer feedback or assistance. And we have all this different criteria. I'm going to copy and paste this entire thing. So let's go to ChatGPT and we're going to start a new chat with it. And we're going to paste in that whole thing. And of course, we're going to go back to our magic question, copy it, paste it. And now for the purposes of building this GPT, we're going to have it ask us questions about our requirements for the chatbot to make sure that we've thought of everything before we build instructions for it. So what format and length do we want the feedback to have? Let's do a mix. Should it give feedback in English, in Spanish, or use mostly English with occasional Spanish explanations? It should give feedback in both languages, English first, then Spanish. Double check something here real quick. Yes. It says, which areas of writing should the GPT focus on when it gives correct part of feedback? Grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure, etc. For this 6th grade class, let's focus on grammar and sentence structure. Build an instruction that can identify which of these areas is most deficient, but always focus on grammar and sentence structure. Okay, it says, how do you want to give the feedback? We want option B, describe and give feedback. The student needs to do the work so they understand how to improve. And now it's producing the system instructions for the GPT. We see what it's come up with. It's giving itself a task and role, a voice and tone, the focus or correction, the bilingual output, the content boundaries, and helpful output. We copy this. Now, along the left-hand side in ChatGPT, you'll see this section here called GPTs. I'm going to tap on that, and then I'm going to create a new GPT in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to choose the configure box here. We're going to call this ELL coach. And that whole thing that we just did, I'm just going to paste it right in here. You can see it was just a copy and paste. and we're going to get a conversation started, which is a little button that you can tap. It says, please attach the student's document. If we scroll down here, there's no files we need to upload, but we don't. We're going to have it use a model. Again, remember we started. We want to always use the smartest model available to us. So I'm going to use the O3 model here. For the purposes of giving feedback, we don't need image generation. We don't need code. Those are important things to note here. So this is about ready to go. And if you want, you can give it a cool little icon. I'm going to skip giving it a cool little icon because I'm not cool. From here, we're going to specify in this, anyone who has the link within AFT, your school district will determine if these things are available. If it's not, then you could give it public sharing if it's enabled. You can see here AFT is disabled public sharing for this instance, and that's okay. You can also choose, do I want to be able to see the settings of how it was made or just chat with it? I'm going to say you can just chat with it. And now, if I hit View GPT, here is our writing coach. It says, switch to the creator's recommended model if you have access to it. We'll tap on that because it's a good thing to do. And let's give it a writing sample. I need to make up a writing sample. Create a writing sample from a 6th grade student with all the disfluencies expected of a bilingual Spanish student whose first language is Spanish. The topic is mRNA vaccines, right at a 6th grade level with approximately 25% disfluencies focused especially in grammar and sentence structure. So what I'm doing here just for a testing ground is just having an AI model spit out an example of writing. In reality, you would use your actual student data. Remember, de-identified. We don't want to submit personally identifiable information to an AI model. Okay, we're going to copy this, and then we're going to paste this in here, and we say evaluate this essay. Just paste it right in. And now we're getting the feedback. It says, great work. You clearly explain your use of a key vocabulary shows strong understanding. Correction. When the subject is singular, the verb usually ends in est. Negative sentence in the present tense need do or does. And now we have the feedback in both English and Spanish. So this is how you create and use one of these GPTs. Again, it's the same exact process we've been doing. These are, if you want to even level up more, you can copy and paste this at the end of the GPT process. So let's show this final example to really give it a boost. I'm going to start with the prompt we already had. I'm going to now paste in this part and paste in our magic question. And in the interest of time, we're not going to go through this entire process all over again, but this additional set of instructions will create a very effective GPT that you can turn into a writing coach. You can see, of course, going through the thing. In the left-hand side in my ChatGPT now, I have that coach. That is essentially a custom-built AI app, purpose-built for this specific purpose that you can use and reuse and share with students as appropriate after you've gone through the appropriate approval processes with your district. But that's how you build this from start to finish.